Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day in Nairobi, and I'm so glad that you're able to join me today on my blog, Their Books, My Thoughts, to discuss books. I will be reviewing books that I have read in the recent past, just sharing my thoughts on them, and hopefully you will do the same, send me some comments, and we can have a conversation about these books, even if not in real time. So let the conversation begin. The book that we're going to start with today is called In the Footsteps of Mr. Kurz, written by Michela. Wrong. I read this book a few years ago and thoroughly enjoyed it. Michela is one of my favorite writers. She is a journalist, a former international correspondent with the BBC, with Reuters, and with the Financial Times, with 6 years of experience of reporting from the African continent. In this book, she writes about DR Congo, explores the history of the country from its colonial days under Belgium's King Leopold, and traces the history of the country through the various leaders, settling on President Mobutu Sese Seko, who had the dubious reputation of being one of Africa's most kleptocratic leaders. And she posits various views, one of them being that the culture of plunder that is associated with DR Congo, unfortunately, the seeds of that culture were set in the days of King Leopold. And she goes to explain and explore how that culture came to complete full fruition in post-colonial DR Congo. She looks at President Mobutu Sese Seko in quite some detail, exploring how he came into power, looking at what he did during his time in power, what he had to do to come into power, and the effect of his presidency on the country, on the average citizen in the country. She comes to the conclusion, among others, that the idea that Mobutu stashed away the wealth of the country in foreign bank accounts and went on to live a profligate, very lavish lifestyle in Europe is not true. In her view, she didn't find any evidence of that stolen money in her research. And she thinks it's all part of the legend of the president. She thinks that he spent so much money on his lavish lifestyle in the country and spent so much money buying off the opposition that by the time he left DR Congo in a plane under a hail of bullets in the middle of the night, there was no more money left. And so there is no money in foreign bank accounts in Michela Wrong's view. This is a book that is written in such an engaging style, that is so well researched, that it's one of the books that I consider an authority on the history of DR Congo, and I highly recommend it. It is full of well-researched material, full of facts, but none of those facts are overwhelming, none of them are boring. It's actually fascinating material, and I highly recommend it. Please go out and look for this book, In the Footsteps of Mr. Kurz by Michela Wrong.